Welcome to Sleep Smart, where falling asleep means waking up to the truth. You've been controlled today, and you didn't even notice. You bought something you didn't need, liked a post you didn't care about, agreed with someone who didn't deserve it. That wasn't a random choice. It was engineered. The most dangerous mind tricks don't feel like manipulation. They feel like your own idea. And in this video, I'm going to show you the hidden psychology that governments, marketers, cult leaders, and even people close to you use to control what you think, feel, and do. These aren't tips, they're weapons. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. The invisible cage. Real control doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels familiar, safe, like something you chose. But you didn't. Because when you control the environment, you don't need to control the person. They'll do what you want, all on their own. And it starts with obedience, the obedience reflex. 1961, Yale University. Psychologist Stanley Milgram runs a study that still haunts us today. Participants are told they're helping with a memory experiment. They sit in front of a shock machine with labelled switches. Each wrong answer, the learner gets shocked. The shocks weren't real, but the screams were. Pleading, crying, silence. And when the participant hesitated, a man in a white lab coat said, "Please continue." And most of them did. 65% of participants gave what they believed was a fatal shock. Why? Because the man giving orders wore a white coat and looked like he was in charge. We are wired to obey those who seem above us. Uniforms, titles, confidence. Even if it goes against our gut. We hesitate to resist someone who acts like they're in charge. That's authority bias. And it's the first forbidden trick. Talk like a leader, and people will question themselves before they ever question you. The lie that feels true. Here's another one. Say something enough times, and people believe it, even if it's completely false. This is the illusion of truth effect. Our brains aren't wired for truth. They're wired for comfort. And familiarity feels comfortable. If you hear something over and over, even a lie, your brain starts filing it under probably true. Politicians do it. Advertisers do it. Manipulators, they depend on it. That's trick number 2. Repeat something until it feels real. Then people will defend it, as if they thought of it themselves. Mirroring, the trust hack. Want someone to like you? Don't try to impress them. Just reflect them. Match their tone, their pace, their posture. It's called mirroring, and it builds instant trust. We like people who remind us of ourselves, even subtly. Salespeople use it. Dating coaches teach it. Con artists master it. Because when your brain sees a reflection, it lets its guard down. That's trick number 3. Mirroring builds unconscious trust. And when trust goes up, defenses go down. Anchoring. Control the first impression. Let's say you walk into a store. The first thing you see is a $3,000 watch. You shake your head. Way too expensive. Then you see another watch. $1,500. Suddenly, it doesn't seem that bad. Not because it's cheap, but because of what came before it. That's anchoring. Whoever controls the first number controls the frame. This happens in negotiations, politics, dating. Anytime someone leads with a big ask, then walks it back to what they really want. That's trick number 4. Control the first idea, and you control everything after. The crowd is the cue. Imagine this. You're standing at a red light. No one's crossing. Then suddenly, 10 people walk into the street. No one says a word, but you feel it. The pull, the pressure, and maybe you follow. That's social proof. One of the oldest instincts we have, because for most of human history, standing out meant danger. So we learned to mimic the group, not because it was right, but because it was safe. That's trick number 5. Make it look like everyone's doing it. And they will. Choice architecture, the illusion of control. You walk into a cafe. They offer 3 drinks, small, medium, large. The medium is just slightly more expensive than the small. The large is nearly double. What do you pick? The medium, of course. Seems like the smart choice. But the game was rigged. The small exists to make the medium look better. The large to make the medium feel affordable. That's choice architecture. You feel like you chose, but really, you were nudged. That's trick number 6. Design the choices so they all lead to what you want. The commitment trap. Here's a classic. A stranger asks you to sign a harmless petition. You say yes. A few days later, they ask for a donation. You give it. Why? Because you said yes before. That's the foot in the door technique. Say yes once, and your brain wants to stay consistent. It hates contradiction. That's why this trick works. Not by force, but by momentum. That's trick number 7. Start small. Get a yes. Then raise the stakes. Bonus trick. Confusion. When you confuse someone, you create a split-second moment of vulnerability. They pause. They hesitate. They look for answers. And if you're ready, you can step in with your suggestion and they'll latch onto it. Salespeople sometimes do this with overly complex language. Scammers do it with urgency and tech speak. It doesn't matter what the words are. All that matters is the moment of disorientation, because in that space, they're looking for direction. That's trick number 8. Confuse, then control. Let's recap. Here are 8 forbidden psychology tricks they don't want you to know. 1. Authority bias. Speak with confidence, and people follow. 2. Illusion of truth. Repeat something until it feels like a fact. 3. Mirroring. Reflect someone, and they'll trust you. 4. Anchoring. Control the first impression and set the frame. 5. Social proof. Make something look popular, and it becomes popular. 6. Choice architecture. Offer choices, but design them to benefit you. 7. The commitment trap. Get a small yes, and build your control from there. 8. Confusion. Disorient them, then guide their next move. These tricks don't shout, they whisper, they don't push, they guide, and they don't feel like control. They feel like your own decision. The real danger. These aren't just tricks in textbooks. They're everywhere, in ads, in conversations, in relationships, on your feed, right now. Sometimes the manipulator wears a suit. Sometimes they wear a smile. Sometimes they wear your face. Because the truth is, we all use these tricks. We all fall for them. And we rarely ask the most important question. Whose idea was this, really? You've probably heard of manipulation, but social engineering. That's manipulation turned into a system. It's how scammers empty your bank account, how cult leaders break your will, and how everyday people get others to say yes without ever asking directly. It's not magic, it's psychology, applied like a weapon. In this chapter, we'll break down the 7 obedience triggers used by experts, influencers, manipulators, and yes, sometimes by you. If part 1 showed you the mechanics, part 2 shows you how they operate in the wild. Let's get into it. Trigger 1. The pretext. Trap. Social engineers don't start with a lie. They start with a setup. They create a situation that feels normal. A delivery guy at the door, a customer support email, a friend of a friend at a party. It feels harmless. Until you're already in too deep. That's called the pretext. A false but believable backstory that justifies the interaction. The trick? If you believe the story, you open the door willingly. Hackers use this to get passwords. Spies use it to build rapport. You've probably used it too. I just had a quick question. It's the soft opener that gets you to lower your guard. Trigger 2. Time pressure. Nothing scrambles your brain like a deadline. When we feel rushed, we don't think clearly. We react. Social engineers exploit this with fake urgency. Your account has been compromised. This offer expires in 5 minutes. Call now or lose your spot. And suddenly, your instincts kick in. You act fast, and regret slow. This is scarcity meets panic. Create urgency, and people will say yes just to stop the pressure. Trigger 3. Familiarity bias. We trust what feels familiar. Voices, faces, logos, patterns. That's why scammers spoof phone numbers, why phishing emails copy big brands, why con artists drop common names and fake memories. You recognize something, and your brain fills in the rest. This bias is so strong that people have given private info to complete strangers, just because they sounded like someone they knew. It's not intelligence that gets bypassed. It's emotional shorthand. Familiar equals safe. Wrong. That's how you get played. Trigger 4. Micro commitments. Say yes to one thing, and your likelihood of saying yes again skyrockets. We covered this in part 1 as the commitment trap. But here's how it gets weaponized. A scammer doesn't ask for $1,000. They ask you to confirm your name, then your number, then your address. Each yes builds momentum. Each micro commitment pulls you deeper. By the time they ask for real money, you've already been conditioned to agree. It's not manipulation, it's training. Trigger 5. Role framing. The moment someone sees you as below them in some way, they gain psychological leverage. Doctors, officers, security guards, even confident strangers in suits. When people believe someone holds a higher role, they defer, even if the role is fake. In one study, people followed illegal orders from a man just because he wore a uniform and held a clipboard. No badge, no authority, just the appearance of power. That's role framing, and it overrides logic. Trigger 6. The reverse favor. This one's sneaky. Someone offers to help you, carries your bag, compliments you, does you a favor, and then asks for something small in return. You feel obligated. You say yes. That's reciprocity. The human tendency to repay kindness, even fake kindness. Manipulators give fake gifts just to get real compliance. Because once you owe someone, they own your attention. Trigger 7. The decoy effect. Let's say you're offered 2 options. Option A, $50 for 1 item. Option B, $80 for 2. Tough call. Now they add option C, $75 for 1. Suddenly, option B feels like a deal. That's the decoy effect. A third option is added, not to be chosen, but to make another option look better. This isn't just used in sales. It's used in politics, negotiations, relationships. Manipulators frame choices so you feel like you're making a smart decision, but really, you're just reacting to the setup. Real-world social engineering playbook. Let's play out a real scenario. You're at home. Someone knocks on your door. He's wearing a delivery uniform, clipboard in hand. Sorry to bother you. Can you confirm the last 4 digits of your address? You glance at the box. There's a name on it. It's almost yours. Your brain says, this is routine. This is fine. You say the numbers. That was a pretext. He used role framing, familiarity bias, and micro commitments in less than 20 seconds. And now he knows more than he should, because the situation didn't feel dangerous. That's the whole point. The power of passive suggestion. Here's something darker. Many manipulators don't ask. They imply. They guide. They set up the scene and let you draw the conclusion. They say, I'm not saying he's lying, but something feels off. Or, you're smart. You know what I mean. That's called passive suggestion. No direct command. No clear request. But the message still lands, and you take action, as if it was your own decision. This is the art of guided inference. And it works, because your brain is constantly filling in gaps, even ones someone else created on purpose. How to defend yourself. Recognizing the game is step 1. But here's how you stay protected. Slow down. If it feels urgent, pause. Urgency is often artificial. Ask questions. Real authority can handle being challenged. Separate the request from the emotion. If someone makes you feel rushed, guilty, flattered, stop. Why that emotion? Why now? Break the pattern. When in doubt, exit. Change the subject. Hang up. Leave the room. Remember, manipulation thrives in structure. Break the structure, break the spell. Let's recap. Here are 7 social engineering triggers to watch for. 1. The pretext trap. The story that sets you up. 2. Time pressure. Urgency shuts down logic. 3. Familiarity bias. We trust what we recognize, even when we shouldn't. 4. Micro commitments. One small yes leads to another, and another. 5. Role framing. We obey status, real or fake. 6. The reverse favor. They give, just to take. 7. The decoy effect. Extra options used to steer you, without force. Plus, passive suggestion, influence through implication. These aren't just clever tricks. They're systems. And they're everywhere. The hard truth. Social engineering doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be aggressive. It just needs to feel natural. The goal isn't to fight you. It's to guide you, to make you feel like it was your decision, even when it wasn't. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Manipulation is most effective when it doesn't feel like manipulation. They don't sell products. They sell feelings. They sell identity. They sell illusions. Every ad you see, every headline you read, every color, sound, and slogan, it's all been carefully engineered to influence you. And it works. In part 3, we're exposing the psychological levers that advertising and media use to control your desires, without ever telling you what to do. Let's begin. The hidden language of ads. Ads don't just talk to you, they talk through you, to your emotions, to your insecurities, to your primal brain. You might think you're ignoring them, but you're not. A flash of red makes your heart rate rise. A jingle embeds itself in your memory, A model smiles, triggering mirror neurons in your brain. Before you've even noticed, you're emotionally involved. That's not an accident. It's science. Color manipulation. Red stimulates appetite. Blue builds trust. Black signals luxury. Green implies health. Yellow creates urgency. This is called color psychology, and it's everywhere. Fast food chains use red and yellow to make you feel hungry and rushed. Luxury brands use minimalist black to make products seem exclusive. Banks love blue because it calms the mind and builds perceived credibility. You don't choose to feel these things. Your brain just does. That's trick number 1. Use color to trigger emotion without words. The repetition principle. Repeat something enough times, and your brain stops questioning it. That's why slogans are short. Why ads run over and over. Why jingles loop endlessly in your head. Repetition equals familiarity. Familiarity equals comfort. Comfort equals trust. Even if the message is nonsense. That's why you remember taglines from decades ago. Why the melody from a soda commercial can play in your head when you're thirsty. Why people say, "have it your way," without knowing what brand it belongs to. Repetition isn't just annoying, it's programming. That's trick number 2. Say less, but say it often. The scarcity illusion. Only 3 left in stock. Limited time only. This offer expires in 10 minutes. Sound familiar? This is manufactured scarcity. It creates panic, urgency, the fear of missing out. Even if the product is unlimited, even if the timer resets every hour. Scarcity hijacks the brain's survival circuits. It makes the offer feel special, even if it's not. You're not buying the product, you're buying the fear of not having it. That's trick number 3. Make something seem rare, and it instantly feels more valuable. Symbolic anchoring. You've probably seen a luxury car ad shot on a mountain, a fitness brand placed over a war soundtrack, a perfume commercial that looks like a James Bond film. Why? Because your brain connects symbols with meaning. Mountains equals power. Music equals emotion. Hollywood visuals equals status. These symbols get embedded in the product, even though the product itself hasn't changed. That's called symbolic anchoring. You're not buying a fragrance, you're buying danger. Sex, adventure, confidence. That's trick number 4. Attach meaning to the product through unrelated emotion. Lifestyle hijacking. You don't just want coffee. You want to feel productive, focused, alive. You don't just want sneakers. You want to be bold, strong, limitless. That's lifestyle marketing. The product becomes a shortcut to a better version of you. It sells identity, who you think you are, or who you want to be. That's trick number 5. Don't sell the item, sell the feeling that comes with it. False personalization. Hey, your name. Your dream product is waiting. People like you are loving this because you deserve better. These messages feel personal. They're not. This is false personalization, a way to make mass marketing feel like a private conversation. Your brain reads it and thinks, they see me, but they don't. They're using generic data, algorithms, and phrasing designed to sound customized, and it works. That's trick number 6. Make it feel personal, even if it's not. Trust transfer. Ever notice how products are advertised by celebrities, influencers, doctors, or real customers? That's trust transfer. The person already holds credibility. And now that credibility gets passed to the product. Even if it makes no logical sense. Shaq endorses printers. Oprah endorses books. Doctors in lab coats recommend shampoo. The logic doesn't matter. Your brain sees someone it trusts and lowers its guard. That's trick number 7. Borrow trust. Then sell through it. Fear-based framing. Some ads don't sell dreams, they sell threats. If you don't use this, you're falling behind. What you don't know could hurt your family. Are you sure you're protected? This is fear-based framing. It uses anxiety and uncertainty to force engagement, not because you want to, but because you're afraid not to. Insurance companies use it. Security software companies use it. Even parenting brands use it. And the fear doesn't have to be real. It just has to feel real. That's trick number 8. Make the customer feel unsafe, then offer safety. The illusion of choice. Here's one that hides in plain sight. You go to a website. They show you 3 plans. Basic, $5 a month standard, $9 a month premium, $10 a month. Almost everyone picks standard or premium. Why? Because the basic plan is there to make the others look reasonable. That's choice architecture, like we discussed in part 1. But here, it's framed to make you feel smart for choosing. That's trick number 9. Offer fake choices to drive the real decision. The media multiplier. Advertising doesn't work in isolation. It works better when it rides alongside. News, social media trends, viral videos, cultural events. This is the media multiplier. When the same message shows up across different channels, in different voices, with different formats, it creates belief. Not because it's proven, but because it feels everywhere. It starts to feel unavoidable. That's trick number 10. Spread the same message through different voices until it becomes the background noise of reality. How to spot it. Most ads don't want you to notice them. They want to blend in, to feel natural. So how do you stay conscious? Ask, what emotion is this ad trying to trigger? If it's urgency, fear, status, or identity, it's working on your unconscious. Ask, what symbols are being used? Mountains, babies, gold, speed, fire, softness. Those are cues. Ask, would I want this product without the emotion attached? That one question breaks the spell. Let's recap. Here are 10 covert persuasion tricks used in advertising and media. 1. Color psychology. Use color to influence mood unconsciously. 2. Repetition. Familiarity creates belief. 3. Scarcity illusion. Make something feel rare to increase demand. 4. Symbolic anchoring. Attach meaning to a product through unrelated imagery. 5. Lifestyle hijacking. Sell identity, not the item. 6. False personalization. Make mass messages feel private. 7. Trust transfer. Use familiar faces to borrow belief. 8. Fear framing. Scare the audience into action. 9. Fake choice. Present options that all lead to the desired outcome. 10. Media multiplier. Repeat the message across platforms until it feels true. The real problem. It's not that you're being lied to. It's that you're being guided, quietly, repeatedly, from every direction. And it works, because most people never realize it's happening. But you do now, and that gives you power. What if you couldn't trust your own memory? What if someone made you feel crazy while smiling to your face? This is gaslighting. And it's not just something that happens in toxic relationships. It's a psychological tactic used by manipulators, cults, narcissists, and even corporations to make you question reality itself. In part 4, we'll break down how gaslighting works, the stages, the signs, the science, and most importantly, how to spot it before it takes over your mind. Let's begin. What is gaslighting? Gaslighting is a manipulation technique designed to make you doubt your memory, your perception, your judgment, your sanity. It doesn't need yelling. It doesn't need threats. All it needs is repetition, denial, and control over context. It's the emotional equivalent of moving the furniture slightly every day until you think you're the one going crazy. And once someone controls your perception of reality, they control you. Where it comes from. The term gaslighting comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight. In it, a husband slowly manipulates his wife into thinking she's losing her mind by dimming the gas lights in their home and then denying it when she notices. She starts to doubt herself, then her senses, then her sanity. That story isn't fiction, it's psychology. And real gaslighters use the same methods, but in subtler, more modern forms. Why it works. Gaslighting works because it doesn't attack facts directly. It attacks your confidence in those facts. It creates confusion, doubt, insecurity. Your memory says one thing, they say another, and they say it with certainty. And if you don't have outside support, you start to wonder, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I am the problem. That's when they win. Because once you're uncertain about what's real, you'll start relying on them for clarity. Phase 1. The setup. Trust and dependency. Gaslighting rarely starts with conflict. It starts with charm. The manipulator builds trust. They position themselves as a protector, helper, or expert. They learn your fears, your insecurities, your emotional triggers. They become your mirror until you feel emotionally safe with them. That's when they flip the script. Once you've opened up, they use what you shared against you. That's not love. That's strategic intimacy. Phase 2. Subtle erosion. This is where it begins. Small corrections, mild dismissals, jokes with a sharp edge. You always forget things. You're too sensitive. That's not what happened. Nothing major, just enough to plant doubt. You start questioning your version of events, your tone, your response. It feels minor, but it's calculated. Because if they can shake your confidence in the little things, they can break you on the big ones. Phase 3. Denial and distortion. Now it ramps up. You bring up a memory. They deny it completely. You express hurt. They say it never happened. Or worse, blame you for feeling it. They rewrite the story. They flip the timeline. They use your confusion against you. You're just paranoid. You're remembering it wrong. You always make things up. If you push back, they escalate. Now you're the problem. You're the unstable one. You're the aggressor. And they're calm, reasonable, patient. This phase is psychological warfare. With a smile. Phase 4. Isolation. Once you start pushing back, they isolate you. They chip away at your support system. Your friends don't really care. Your family is toxic. No one else understands you like I do. Eventually you stop sharing. You retreat inward. You disconnect from reality checks. And now, they're the only voice left in the room. Gaslighters need control over the narrative. And that means cutting off anything that might challenge it. Phase 5. Internalization. This is the final stage. By now, you've internalized their voice. You second-guess your emotions. You filter your reactions. You replay every interaction in your head, searching for the mistake that wasn't there. They don't even need to gaslight you anymore, because you've started doing it to yourself. That's the final win, when you become the enforcer of their reality. Micro-gaslighting, the casual kind. Not all gaslighting is extreme. Sometimes it shows up in everyday conversations. You're exaggerating. I never said that. Can't you take a joke? It happens in families, workplaces, friendships, not always out of malice, but out of control, power, ego. Even well-meaning people gaslight, especially when they want to win an argument or avoid accountability. It's not about the size of the lie. It's about the impact on your sense of self. Digital gaslighting. Gaslighting has evolved with tech. You say they sent a text, they delete it. You show them a message, they say it's fake. They block you, then blame you for not replying. This is digital distortion, using tech as a weapon to rewrite interactions, then deny them. And because tech is confusing, it makes you doubt what you saw, even when you have the screenshots. Corporate gaslighting. Yes, brands gaslight too. Think about, you're not using it right. No one else has complained. That feature was never promised. Sorry, that's our policy. When a company makes you feel irrational for reporting a real issue, that's corporate gaslighting. They control the narrative, minimize your experience, and make you feel like you're overreacting. It's not just about customer service. It's about protecting power. Gaslighting in media and politics. Gaslighting exists at scale when leaders lie openly and then deny they ever said it. That's gaslighting. When media outlets spin headlines to erase context, that's gaslighting. When truth gets reframed as fake news and fiction becomes your truth, reality becomes fractured. And when no one agrees on what's real, control shifts to whoever shouts loudest. This is narrative control on a national level. How to defend yourself. 1. Write it down. Keep a journal. Document what was said, when, and how you felt. Over time, patterns appear. 2. Stay connected. Don't isolate. Share your experiences with people you trust. Outside perspective equals reality check. 3. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is, even if you can't explain why. 4. Look for consistency. If someone's story keeps changing, there's a reason. 5. Set boundaries. You don't need proof to say, that's not okay. Let's recap. Gaslighting follows a pattern: charm and trust, subtle corrections, denial and distortion, isolation, internalization. It shows up in relationships, work, media, tech, institutions. Its goal is control, not just over what you think, but how you think. And once your perception is altered, so is your reality. The recovery. Recovering from gaslighting isn't about proving them wrong. It's about reconnecting with your own voice, your memory, your instincts, your emotional intelligence. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not wrong for remembering what they told you didn't happen. And the moment you begin to trust yourself again, the spell breaks. Gaslighting only works when you forget who you are. So remember, you can manipulate one person with a lie, but to control a nation, you need something bigger. Mass manipulation doesn't rely on facts, it relies on fear. repetition, symbolism, and the illusion of choice. In this chapter, we'll break down the forbidden psychological tactics used by governments, cults, corporations, and media to shape public perception and control entire populations without them ever realizing it. This is not a conspiracy, this is strategy, and it's been used for decades. Let's get into it. The power of narrative control. People don't respond to facts. They respond to stories. Stories explain. They simplify. They unite. But stories also filter what you're allowed to see. When a government, media outlet, or movement controls the story, they don't just influence what people think. They influence what people think about. That's the first tactic of mass control. Control the narrative, and you control the frame. This is called agenda setting. The Overton window. Here's something most people have never heard of. The Overton window is the range of ideas society considers acceptable. Move the window, and you move what people are willing to tolerate. One year, a policy sounds radical. The next, it sounds normal. The year after that, it's law. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, intentional. It's done through repetition, media normalization, and selective outrage. And once the window shifts, people forget it was ever somewhere else. That's the second tactic. Shift perception by shifting the boundaries of what's normal. The rule of repetition. Propaganda doesn't need to be smart. It just needs to be repeated. Over and over, loud enough, long enough, until people stop questioning it. That's why slogans work, why sound bites are used, why chants and hashtags spread faster than essays, because repetition feels like truth. If you hear a lie once, you question it. If you hear it 50 times, you doubt yourself. That's tactic 3. Repeat the message until it becomes the memory. Symbols and emotional triggers. A flag, a fist, a red hat, a mask, a cross. Symbols bypass logic. They tap directly into the emotional brain. They say, this is who we are. This is what we stand against. This is the line. And people rally to symbols faster than to policies, because symbols create identity. And identity is harder to challenge than opinion. That's tactic 4. Use symbols to unite and divide. Group polarization. Ever wonder why crowds get extreme? It's called group polarization. Put people with similar views in the same space, and they don't become moderate. They become more extreme. Beliefs harden. Dissent is rejected. Outsiders become threats. This is why echo chambers are so dangerous. They feel safe, but they build mental walls. And when everyone around you agrees, doubt feels like betrayal. That's tactic 5. Use group identity to radicalize thought. The fear lever. Fear is one of the most powerful tools in psychological warfare. When people are afraid, they look for safety, they seek certainty, they surrender control, and the person who offers that control gains power. Fear shuts down rational thought. It turns critical thinkers into obedient followers, and it doesn't have to be real, just believable. Crime statistics, disease outbreaks, economic collapse, war, terror, create a threat, control the reaction, and people will beg for rules they once rejected. That's tactic 6. Scare them into obedience. Divide and distract. A distracted population is a controllable one. If people are fighting each other, they're not watching the people in charge. So the tactic, divide them by race, by class, by belief, by identity, by generation, fuel outrage, amplify differences, make every disagreement personal. Now people stop listening. They start yelling, and they forget who's pulling the strings. That's tactic 7. Keep the public fragmented and focused on each other. Manufactured consent. Most people don't know what they believe. They borrow it from headlines, from influencers, from trends. This is manufactured consent. When the illusion of agreement is created before you have a chance to form your own view. Polls, surveys. Most people think these shape perception, not reflect it, because when you believe the majority agrees, you stop questioning. That's tactic 8. Make it look like everyone agrees, and they will. The illusion of choice. Want to control people without force? Give them choices, but only between options you've already approved, left or right, this channel or that one, this product or that one. The illusion of freedom satisfies the need for autonomy without giving up control. It's the magician's trick. Pick any card, while every card leads to the same result. That's tactic 9. Create fake freedom to prevent real rebellion. False flags and crisis framing. When something shocking happens, ask yourself, who benefits? False flag operations are events staged to look like something they're not, used to justify control, surveillance, or war. Even when the event is real, the way it's framed can be used to shift public opinion overnight. 9/11, Pearl Harbor, Gulf of Tonkin, WMDs. The crisis becomes the lever. The solution is already waiting. That's tactic 10. Use disaster to push the desired agenda. Censorship by overload. Not all censorship is about deleting content. Sometimes you just bury it. Flood the feed. Release hundreds of meaningless headlines. Dilute the signal with noise. Now the truth is technically out there, but no one can find it. Or worse, no one cares. This is censorship by overload. That's tactic 11. Bury the truth in distraction. The manipulation cycle. Let's walk through a full cycle example. A crisis is presented, real or exaggerated. The public is flooded with fear-based headlines. Outrage is focused on a scapegoat. The Overton window shifts. Suddenly, extreme measures feel reasonable. New laws are introduced for your safety. Dissent is labeled dangerous or unpatriotic. Social media amplifies the divide. Mass consensus is manufactured. Symbols, hashtags, slogans do the rest. Repeat, that's not a theory, that's history. How to defend yourself. 1. Study framing. Always ask, what's being left out? Why this story now? 2. Check for repetition. If it feels like everyone's saying the same thing, it's by design. 3. Question identity narratives. You are not your side, your tribe, your party. 4. Follow the incentive. Ask, who profits from this? 5. Seek out dissenting views. You don't have to agree, you just have to listen. 6. Trust patterns over personalities. Don't focus on who said it. Focus on how it's being repeated. Let's recap. Here are 11 mass influence tactics used in psychological warfare. 1. Narrative control. Control the story equals control perception. 2. Overton window. Shift what's acceptable slowly. 3. Repetition. Say it often enough and it feels true. 4. Symbolism. Use emotional triggers to bypass logic. 5. Group polarization. Turn agreement into extremism. 6. Fear. Scare people into submission. 7. Division. Keep people fighting each other. 8. Manufactured consent. Create the illusion of agreement. 9. Illusion of choice. Offer choices that all lead the same place. 10. Crisis framing. Use disaster to reshape society. 11. Censorship by overload. Flood the truth so it drowns. The real enemy. The most dangerous manipulation is the one you don't notice. It doesn't look like mind control. It looks like your own beliefs, your own tribe, your own values, your own voice. But if you didn't choose them consciously, who chose them for you? That's the question they hope you never ask. But now you have. And that means you're harder to control. What if you could control someone's thoughts without arguing, without shouting, without even asking, just by the way you speak? This is dark NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnotic language. And when used unethically, it can change minds without resistance. In this part, we'll break down the mechanics of covert communication, the psychology of phrasing, rhythm, and emotional anchoring, and how manipulators use words to bypass logic and speak straight to your subconscious. Let's begin. What is NLP really? NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro, your brain. Linguistic, your language. Programming, your behavior patterns. The idea: by changing the way people use language, you can change how they feel, act, and think. Sounds powerful? It is. When used with consent, NLP is used in therapy, personal development, even performance coaching. But when used without consent, it becomes a tool for covert influence. And when it works, you don't even realize it happened. The power of embedded commands. Let's start with one of the most common dark NLP tactics: embedded commands. It works like this. You hide a command inside a longer sentence, so the conscious mind doesn't notice it, but the unconscious mind picks it up. For example, you can begin to feel more curious as you think about how easily people are influenced. The embedded command: begin to feel more curious. Here's another. Some people find it impossible to resist when they realize how powerful these words are. The command: find it impossible to resist. You don't notice it, but your unconscious does. That's tactic 1. Plant a command inside a casual sentence and let the subconscious carry it out. Pacing and leading. Next up is pacing and leading, a hypnotic technique that builds agreement. First, you say things the listener already agrees with. This builds rapport and lowers resistance. Then, you lead them into what you want them to believe. Here's what it sounds like. You're sitting here, listening to my voice, probably feeling curious, and maybe wondering just how deep this goes. It starts with facts. You're listening. You're sitting. Then it leads to suggestion. You're curious. You're wondering. The brain hears the truth first, so it assumes the rest is also true. That's tactic 2. Start with the obvious. Then lead into suggestion. Yes, sets and momentum agreement. Want someone to say yes? Get them to say yes 3 times first. This is called a yes set. Ask questions with obvious answers. You're watching this video, right? You're probably breathing calmly. You're thinking about what comes next. Each yes builds momentum, and with enough momentum, people keep saying yes, even when it counts. Salespeople use this. Cult leaders use this. Dark persuaders use this. Because the brain likes to stay consistent. That's tactic 3. Build agreement through rhythms, then slip in the real ask. Temporal shifts confuse the clock. Here's something wild. You can disarm someone by messing with their sense of time. Confusing the timeline puts people off balance, and confusion equals suggestibility. Listen, and maybe now, or maybe even before you realized it, you already started thinking about the moment this all made sense, even if it hasn't happened yet. What? Exactly. The brain starts chasing clarity, and when it gets tired, it accepts suggestion. That's tactic 4. Distort time to scramble resistance. Sensory language. Speak to the senses. People process reality through their senses. Visual, seeing. Auditory, hearing. Kinesthetic, feeling. Olfactory, smell. Gustatory, taste. NLP taps into these with sensory-loaded language. Instead of saying, "This idea is powerful," say, "You can feel this idea settle into your chest, like a sound you forgot you were hearing." That's not just information. That's a felt experience. That's tactic 5. Use sensory language to make ideas feel real. Anchoring emotional states. Anchoring links a feeling to a stimulus. Do it right. And you can trigger that feeling on command. It's classical conditioning, like Pavlov's dogs. Here's how it works in dark NLP. Step 1. Get someone into an emotional state. Calm, excitement, fear. Step 2. Attach that state to a repeated word, gesture, or tone. Step 3. Later, use that word or gesture to re-trigger the state, even without the original context. Every time you hear me say focus, you'll feel that deep clarity again. That's tactic 6. Attach feelings to cues, then use them later to influence behavior. Pattern interrupts. Humans are creatures of pattern. Break the pattern, and you gain control. A pattern interrupt shocks the system, even briefly. Example. Most people don't think twice about how easy it is to influence others, but while you're thinking about that, notice your breathing, or don't. Wait, what? That little confusion breaks the rhythm, and in that mental glitch, a suggestion lands more easily. That's tactic 7. Disrupt the flow to reset attention and inject influence. Double binds, the illusion of choice. Want to control someone while making them feel free? Offer a double bind, 2 choices that both lead to your goal. Do you want to understand this power now, or after we go deeper? Either way, they're moving forward. Would you rather relax first, or feel the clarity settle in? Same destination, different path. This is how advertisers, politicians, and parents create obedient decisions. That's tactic 8. Give the illusion of control while steering the outcome. Trance language, the hypnotic flow. Here's where it gets deep. When language flows with a certain rhythm, the brain enters a trance-like state. Sentences stretch, pacing slows. Your thoughts begin to sync with the speaker's rhythm. This isn't sleep. It's focus. It's tunnel vision. The words become music, and the meaning slips in behind it. And as you hear these words, you might begin to realize that some ideas don't need to be analyzed to be accepted. That's tactic 9. Use rhythm, tone, and flow to guide the mind into soft focus. Hypnotic loops. Here's a final technique. You start an idea, but before you finish it, you start another. So, as you listen now, thinking about how this all connects, and maybe wondering why some people, when they hear certain words, begin to feel a kind of, well, let's come back to that in a second. That's a hypnotic loop. The brain tries to track multiple threads. Eventually, it gives up and just absorbs. It's overload, disguised as curiosity. That's tactic 10. Open loops, and never fully close them until the message lands. Ethical versus unethical use. Let's be clear. These tools aren't inherently evil. Therapists use them to help people reprogram trauma. Teachers use them to hold attention. Speakers use them to inspire. The difference is intent. When used with permission, this is guidance. When used without permission, this is manipulation. The power of language is neutral, but your use of it is not. How to defend yourself. 1. Slow the conversation down. If someone is speaking in a rhythm, break it. 2. Ask for clarity. Interrupt hypnotic flow with direct questions. 3. Listen for commands. If you feel pushed, trace the sentence backwards. Was there a hidden directive? 4. Notice the structure. Are they giving you a real choice or a double bind? 5. Trust your reaction. If something feels off, it probably is, even if you can't explain why. Let's recap. Here are 10 dark NLP and hypnotic language tactics. 1. Embedded commands. Commands hidden in plain sight. 2. Pacing and leading. Start with truth. Lead into suggestion. 3. Yes, sets. Build agreement with rhythm. 4. Temporal confusion. Scramble the clock. Soften resistance. 5. Sensory language. Trigger emotion through senses. 6. Emotional anchoring. Link feelings to words or gestures. 7. Pattern interrupts. Break the script. Reset the brain. 8. Double binds offer choice, but control the path. 9. Trance language. Use tone and flow to induce soft focus. 10. Hypnotic loops. Open mental loops and guide the absorption. Final thought. Language is the software of the mind. Every word carries weight. Every phrase has power. And the people who understand that can lead others without force. But now you know. And that means no one can speak past your defenses unless you let them. What if the person hurting you was also the one saying, "I'm doing this because I care"? Emotional manipulation doesn't always come from enemies. It often comes from people you love, trust, depend on, partners, friends, parents, even yourself. In this part, we'll expose how emotional leverage is used to gain control through charm, guilt, silence, fear. Let's get into it. What is emotional manipulation? Emotional manipulation is when someone uses your feelings against you to get what they want, to avoid responsibility, or to control your behavior. It can look like affection, it can sound like care, but it's always about control. What makes it dangerous is not just what it does to you, but how long it takes you to realize it's happening. The charm phase, the hook. It usually starts with the high, excessive kindness, attention, affection. They praise you, they mirror you, they make you feel chosen. This is called love bombing. And it works because it creates emotional dependency early. The brain floods with dopamine. You feel seen, special, safe. But the intensity, that's the bait. Once you're hooked, the switch begins. That's tactic 1. Overwhelm with affection. Then create withdrawal. Guilt tripping, emotional debt. Next comes guilt. They'll say things like, "After all I've done for you, you're really going to treat me like this? You know I hate when you make me feel this way." Suddenly, you're the one who did something wrong, even when you didn't. That's emotional debt, a fake ledger of sacrifices and suffering, used to manipulate your behavior. You feel like you owe them something, so you back down, apologize, give in, even if they're the one who crossed the line. That's tactic 2. Turn emotional history into leverage. Silent treatment, psychological starvation. Nothing breaks a person faster than silence. No yelling, no arguing, just withdrawal. This is the silent treatment, a form of emotional punishment. It removes affection, validation, and attention until you crack. Why does it work? Because humans are wired for connection. When someone withholds it, you feel rejected, alone, wrong. You end up apologizing just to restore peace. Even if you didn't start the war, that's tactic 3. Use silence as control. Gaslighting. Rewrite their reality. We covered gaslighting in part 4, but in relationships, it gets personal. It sounds like you're overthinking it. That's not what I meant. You always twist my words. You're too emotional. Each denial chips away at your perception. Each twist makes you question yourself. Soon you start apologizing for remembering things that really happened. This keeps you confused. And when you're confused, you're easier to control. That's tactic 4. Make them doubt their own mind. Projection. Blame. Shifting 101. They accuse you of the very thing they're doing. They lie and say you're the dishonest one. They flirt and say you're too jealous. They neglect you and say you're distant. This is projection. It's not just deflection. It's a way to confuse, reverse guilt, and keep you defensive. Now, instead of confronting them, you're defending yourself. That's tactic 5. Blame you to hide what they're doing. Triangulation. Create competition. This one's subtle. They bring someone else into the dynamic. An ex, a friend, a coworker. And suddenly, you feel compared, insecure, replaceable. They say things like, "They never made a big deal about it. You're being dramatic. Maybe I should have stayed with them." Even if they don't say it out loud. They know what they're doing. Triangulation builds jealousy and makes you try harder to win their attention. That's tactic 6. Introduce a third party to destabilize you. Future faking. Empty promises. They say they want a future with you. They talk about marriage, kids, trips, plans, but nothing ever moves forward. This is future faking, creating the illusion of long-term commitment to keep you emotionally invested in the short term. It buys them time and keeps you hoping, even as they give less and take more. That's tactic 7. Use dreams to distract from the present. Playing the victim. Reverse sympathy. Whenever they hurt you, they become the victim. You're upset, and they start crying. You set a boundary, and they say you're cold. You point out something unfair, and they bring up their trauma. This is reverse empathy. They hijack your compassion to avoid accountability. Suddenly, you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. That's tactic 8. Weaponize vulnerability to escape blame. Conditional love. Withhold to control. They love you, but only when you're behaving. They support you, but only when you agree. You feel good, only when you please them. This is conditional affection, and it trains you to abandon parts of yourself just to keep the peace. Over time, you shrink. That's tactic 9. Tie love to obedience. Hot and cold. Create dependence. They're warm, then distant. Affectionate, then cold. You never know who you'll get. This is intermittent reinforcement. It creates emotional addiction because the good moments feel rare. You crave them more. You work harder to earn the good days, even as the bad ones increase. This mirrors the exact system that makes gambling addictive. That's tactic 10. Alternate love and withdrawal to create obsession. How it feels over time. It doesn't always feel abusive. It feels confusing. You second-guess yourself, apologize constantly, over-explain, feel like you're walking on eggshells. You think, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm too much. Maybe if I just... You start censoring yourself, hiding your needs, losing your voice. And that's the goal of emotional manipulation. Not to dominate you loudly, but to shrink you quietly. How to spot the pattern. 1. You feel drained, not energized. Healthy relationships restore you. 2. Your emotions are dismissed. If everything you feel is too much, it's not you. 3. You're always the one adjusting. You change everything to keep the peace. 4. You lose trust in your own memory. That's not forgetfulness. That's gaslighting. 5. You're scared to bring up concerns. That's not love. That's control. How to defend yourself. 1. Name what's happening. You don't need proof. You just need awareness. 2. Write it down. When the story keeps changing, your notes won't. 3. Talk to someone outside the situation. Isolation makes manipulation stronger. 4. Set boundaries and watch the reaction. If setting a boundary causes punishment, it was never safe. 5. Reconnect with yourself. The longer you're under emotional control, the more you forget who you are. Start remembering. Let's recap. Here are 10 common emotional manipulation tactics. 1. Love bombing. Overload you with affection, then withdraw. 2. Guilt tripping. Turn your care into control. 3. Silent treatment. Starve you emotionally until you break. 4. Gaslighting. Make you question your memory, logic, and perception. 5. Projection. Blame you for what they're doing. 6. Triangulation. Use others to create jealousy and insecurity. 7. Future faking. Use promises to keep you stuck in hope. 8. Playing the victim. Use tears to escape accountability. 9. Conditional love. Make love something you must earn. 10. Intermittent reinforcement. Switch between warmth and cold to create emotional addiction. Final thought. Emotional manipulation isn't always loud. It's not always obvious, but it's always real. You are not too sensitive, too dramatic, too needy. You're reacting to something your nervous system can't ignore. And the first step to healing is believing in yourself again. You've seen how it works. The manipulation, the framing, the hidden levers in language, fear, trust, emotion. But knowing the tricks is just the beginning. Now it's time to defend yourself, to unlearn the lies, to stop being an easy target, to start seeing the game as it's being played before it plays you. In this final part, you'll learn how to build psychological immunity so no one can hijack your attention, emotions, or decisions again. Let's begin. Step 1. Build awareness before it happens. Most manipulation works because you don't recognize it while it's happening, only afterward, when it's too late. So we start with early detection. Ask yourself 3 questions in every interaction. What emotion is this person trying to create in me? Is it urgency, guilt, fear, admiration? What are they gaining from my reaction? Are they pushing me to agree, to buy, to feel small? Would I respond this way if I felt calm and clear? These 3 questions interrupt the manipulation cycle before it gets deep. That's your first defense, awareness before emotion takes over. Step 2. Slow the conversation down. Most psychological tricks rely on speed, rush, pressure, impulse. Why? Because a rushed brain doesn't think clearly. It reverts to instinct, and instinct is easily manipulated. So take a breath. Pause the message. Say, "Let me think about that." Even in tense moments, say, "I need a minute." Buy yourself time, and you'll buy yourself clarity. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. That's defense 2. Slow things down before they control the pace. Step 3. Use emotional labeling. Here's a powerful tool used by hostage negotiators. Label what you feel. When someone tries to trigger you, say it out loud, even just to yourself. I feel pressured. I feel confused. I feel like I'm being guilted right now. The moment you name the emotion, you take control of it. Your emotional brain calms down. Your rational brain wakes up. This simple move breaks the trance. That's defense 3. Name what you feel, so it doesn't name you. Step 4. Reality anchoring. When gaslighting or psychological confusion sets in, you need anchors. Objective reference points that can't be distorted. Use written journals, voice memos, screenshots, trusted outside voices. Example: I remember that conversation. I wrote about it right after. I have the message saved. I ran it by a friend and they confirmed I wasn't overreacting. These are your anchors when your perception is under attack. That's defense 4. Document reality, because memory can be rewritten, but records can't. Step 5. The power of pattern recognition. Isolated behavior can be explained away, but patterns, they tell the truth. Start noticing. Is this person constantly shifting blame? Do I always feel small after talking to them? Do compliments come right before a demand? Write down what you see. The pattern will reveal more than the words ever could. That's defense 5. Track behavior over time, so you can't be manipulated in the moment. Step 6. Learn the difference between guilt and manipulation. Healthy guilt sounds like, I hurt someone, I want to make it right. Manipulative guilt sounds like, they made me feel bad because I didn't do what they wanted. Big difference. Ask, am I feeling guilty for what I did, or for not being what someone else expects? You are not responsible for other people's unreasonable expectations, only your integrity. That's defense 6. Know whose guilt you're carrying and drop what's not yours. Step 7. Practice boundary scripts. Boundaries aren't just rules, they're language. If you don't know what to say when you feel manipulated, you'll say nothing, or worse, you'll comply. So prepare your lines in advance. I'm not comfortable with that. That doesn't work for me. We'll need to agree to disagree. I need space right now. I don't owe you that explanation. Practice them. Say them in front of a mirror. Say them until they're muscle memory. That's defense 7. Have the words, so silence doesn't become surrender. Step 8. Rebuild your internal compass. After long-term manipulation, you may feel like you can't trust your own judgment. That's normal, but it's not permanent. Start small. Make a choice without asking for advice. Sit with a feeling instead of dismissing it. Trust a hunch and follow through. Each time you act in alignment with yourself, you rebuild trust in your own voice. Manipulators want you to second guess. Your job now is to re-choose yourself. That's defense 8. Rebuild trust in your internal signals. They were never broken, just buried. Step 9. Strengthen your core values. The more uncertain you are about who you are, the easier it is to be controlled. So clarify your core values. What do I stand for? What is non-negotiable? What will I walk away from no matter what? Write these down, put them somewhere visible. Use them to filter every interaction. If someone threatens your values, the answer is already no. That's defense 9. Stand firm in what matters, so you never trade your identity for approval. Step 10. Disengage without explaining. You don't need to win. You don't need to prove. You don't need to educate your manipulator. Sometimes, you just need to leave. Disengagement is power. It sounds like, I'm not doing this. We're done here. I don't explain myself to people who twist my words. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. That's defense 10. Leave the room before they write your script for you. When you've already been manipulated. What if it's too late? What if it already happened? Then it's time to heal. Here's how. Stop blaming yourself. You were manipulated because you were trusting, not weak. Stop justifying them. They didn't mean well. They meant control. Grieve what you lost. Time, energy, confidence. That grief is real. Reclaim what's yours, your story, your power, your truth. You are not broken. You were tricked. There's a difference. And now you're untricking yourself. Let's recap. Here are 10 real-world defenses against psychological manipulation. 1. Early awareness. Spot the emotion being triggered. 2. Slow the pace. Resist rush. Buy time. 3. Label feelings. Call out emotional influence. 4. Anchor reality. Document facts to prevent distortion. 5. Spot patterns. One lie is random. A pattern is a system. 6. Separate real guilt from fake guilt. Your empathy is not their toy. 7. Use boundary scripts. Preloaded responses are armor. 8. Rebuild your inner compass. You're still in there. 9. Identify core values. These are your guideposts. 10. Leave when needed. Not everyone deserves a second chance. Final truth. You can't be controlled without permission. Manipulation needs a crack in your awareness, a gap in your confidence, a missing script for how to respond. But you're learning, you're noticing. You are not hard to influence. You were just never taught how to defend your psychology. Now you are. And the more you practice these tools, the more immune you become. They can try the tricks, run the patterns, play the games. But you'll see it coming. And that changes everything. You've seen the tools, the tricks, the strategies. You've seen how they control people through fear, through guilt, through silence, through doubt. But now, you can see it. And what you can see, you can't be trapped by. You are not naive. You are not weak. You are not a pawn. You are learning faster than they expect, thinking clearer than they want, and pulling your mind back into your own hands. You're not just aware now. You're dangerous to the people who count on your silence. So next time they try, smile, because you already know how the trick works, and they don't control you anymore. This is good night for now. Sleep deeply, wake up smarter.